Good morning. Thank everybody for being here at this fifth meeting of the Budget Review Subcommittee for Transportation. We don't quite yet have a quorum, but with that being said, I'm still going to ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Armstrong, Senator Higdon, Representative Branscombe, Representative Bridges, Representative Huff.
Here.
Representative Imes.
Here.
Representative Smith.
Here.
Representative Tackett Lafferty. Senator Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Representative Blanton. Representative Bowling. Representative Bray. Representative Petrie. Co-Chair Upchurch.
Here.
Chair Douglas.
Present. Thank you so very much, Madam Clerk. I do want to make one announcement, and that is that that Eastern Kentucky University is having a health forum in room 125 from 11 o'clock today through 1 o'clock today. So I invite certainly my colleagues here in the General Assembly and others to attend the forum if you have the time. We cannot approve the minutes because we don't have a quorum. So what I would do is, and what I will do is I will ask our first presenters who will be talking about alternative delivery methods for roads projects to step up here to the desk. And if you would, adjust your microphones, whether you pull them closer to you, but make sure you push the button, make sure the green light is on, and then introduce yourselves for the record.
All right, good morning. Jason Sawala, Deputy State Highway Engineer, Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
I'm Chad LaRue. I'm the Executive Director for the Kentucky Association of Highway Contractors.
Thank you. You know, as I am accustomed to do, and I always do, would you please raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay. Well, I will leave it up to you gentlemen to speak in whichever order you'd like. And if you would, proceed.
All right, very good. I think that it's important as we get into and start talking about these issues, and it's particularly delivery of projects, to talk about the Transportation Cabinet. Just our mission is to be able to provide safe, efficient, environmentally sound, fiscally responsible transportation that delivers economic opportunity, enhances quality of life across all Kentucky. And so I think that as we go through and we talk about these things today, we're going to talk about project delivery. We're going to talk about projects and how important they are to the not only statewide, but to the communities that they serve, that we serve. And so I wanted to start that. And just as a little introduction, KYTC has been using alternative delivery methods, particularly traditional design build, for about 20 years, doing various things, looking at the opportunity to do some of the things that I'm going to talk about relating to scope and schedule and budget and collaboration and things that we'll get into as we go throughout this presentation. But not only in Kentucky, but nationally, both members of transportation cabinets, departments of transportation like me, as well as our partners in the contracting industry like Chad and his members, have had to go through and mitigate and learn some of the challenges with alternative delivery methods. And we're going to talk about some of those today as well. And so I would say that we were also asked to briefly touch upon P3s, and so also going to do that, public-private partnerships, so we're going to do that as well. And so the place where I really want to get started here is that when developing and delivering transportation projects, KYTC strives to deliver the best value to the taxpayer, and that is in terms of quality, cost, and time. Okay, and so we think about the projects that we do and the communities that we serve, and the things that when we talk about project and project delivery in particular, the things that we do are worth doing, and they're worth doing with urgency. And so, we are constantly trying to figure out how to balance these things. And so I'm going to talk a little bit today related to alternative delivery methods about design build, construction manager, general contractor, and public-private partnerships, okay? Now, what I've got here up on the screen is a chart that shows what the different relationships are to transportation cabinets when you talk about these three procurement methods, okay? And so in a traditional sense, design, bid, and then build, You have a designer that works for the DOT or the owner. You get that portion completed, and then you bid that out to contract using traditional low bid methodology, and then you have a contractor that works directly for the owner to carry out that design. And so in design build, the owner actually contracts with a contractor who then has the services of a designer that work for them, and together they comprise a design build team. Okay, and so when you do that type of procurement, the owner has the relationship directly with the contractor, and the designer works for the contractor. And like I said, that contractor designer relationship is what's known as the design build team there, and that's shown by that dash line. And then in CMGC, or contract manager general contractor, okay, that's a little bit of a different situation where the owner has a direct contract with both the contractor and the designer, but they are working, but the contractor is brought on board before design is complete, and they work collaboratively through that process. And then a public-private partnership, or a P3, is something that brings in a lender/equity component to that public project. And as far as the industry standard is concerned on that, the vast majority of those in the transportation space are done what's called design, build, finance, operate, and maintain, DBFOM. Okay, and the thing that I want to make sure before we get away, because I'm not going to talk about P3 very much, because currently in Kentucky we do not have the ability, and we have not used P3s for transportation. Okay, so that's a different segment than the 45A allowances. And but the thing to remember about that is that lender and equity piece requires an income stream of some source, whether that be fees, user fees, or availability payments from dollars that are held by the owner. But that requires a funding stream over the life of that contract and relationship, and generally, again, goes through operations and maintenance. Okay. So as far as alternative delivery projects are concerned, one of the things to remember is that alternative delivery and these different methods that I just discussed, these different contractual relationships, have different characteristics. They have different potential benefits. They have different potential challenges, and they work differently with different project circumstances. And so as we look at our portfolio of projects, and we're looking for opportunities to utilize our alternative delivery tools, we want to make sure that those are applied to the correct projects that have the correct situation that can help them be successful. And so as we're looking at alternative delivery project candidates, and I guess before I go any further, I want to say we are going to be talking specifically about alternative delivery, benefits and those types of things, but I don't want it to be left unsaid that we do these same things within our traditional project infrastructure too. They're often just done in different ways. Okay, and so each one of these types of projects and contracts, the relationships are different, but it's not that we're not trying to look for opportunities for innovation or specialized design or any of these other things within our standard project portfolio either. It's just that the opportunities present themselves in different ways, and they are able to be utilized to different advantages in these alternative types of contracting structures. And so looking at opportunity for innovation in particular, one of the things that we often talk to Chad and his members and what I will call the contracting industry through the project development process, looking for opportunity to apply innovation. Now, talking to the industry is different than talking to the actual contractor who's going to build a project, right? So gathering input from a variety of people who might be interested in constructing something versus the input from the actual entity that's going to construct it is different, because everybody has different capabilities, everybody has different experiences and those types of things. And so in certain circumstances, when you're doing alternative delivery, having the particular contracting team on board that is going to actually deliver that project through construction offers a different type of relationship where innovation is concerned, and the opportunity for us to do that on certain types of projects can make a big difference in how much a project ends up costing or how much time it takes to construct it and those types of things. And so then you have specialized design, construction, or technology. One of the items currently within our alternative delivery portfolio is our wrong-way driving prevention project, okay? And this is technological items to prevent vehicles from entering like interstates or parkways or other limited access facilities going the wrong direction, okay? And so this is a safety initiative that's funded by a federal grant that has a really heavy technology component. And so the reason this was going through the alternative delivery process, one of the primary reasons was that opportunity to look at different technologies as we were going through design, figure out how it was going to integrate and communicate not only with the transportation cabinet, but other stakeholders like EMS and first responders throughout Kentucky, and how exactly we could put all of that together. And so having that design build team on board allowed us to talk through the specifics of these different technologies, what their pros were, what their cons were, actually try some of them out while we had the contractor out on the ground, and has provided a lot of value as we're going into the implementation stages of that later this year. Schedule considerations. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, we try to do all of our projects with urgency. And so schedule considerations, a lot of people, when they think about alternative delivery, they think about acceleration of projects. Now, a lot of times that is the case, that projects can be accelerated because of being able to do some activities concurrently. Sometimes that's not the case. It's project dependent and project specific. When you look at schedule considerations in particular, one of the things that is really highlighted as being different between transportation alternative delivery and, say, design build in the vertical world or in the development world is that the right-of-way and the utilities predominantly are bought before those projects begin and somebody begins constructing buildings or a series of buildings on a site. And so those are things that have some unknowns in their schedule, and they have, and anytime you're looking at unknowns from a schedule perspective, that can translate to risk both for the owner or the contractor, the folks that are building it, and those can have financial impacts as well as other types of impacts when you're delivering a project. And then the last thing that I'll say, looking at project candidates, is complex constructability. Okay, and so one of our bridges that we're currently working on through our CMGC is something that's located, a bridge that's located just feet away from a building that is not going to be knocked down. And so when you're trying to build a bridge that is very, very close to an existing building, and you have to remove pieces, you have to install new bridge, all of those different things, that's a lot more complex than if you've got a wide open space and those types of things. And so as you look at, not only is the thing that you're constructing complex, but does it have other things that lend to that being complex? There's potentially advantages as we're looking at those types of things to be able to have that early relationship with the contractor as well. Now, as I was mentioning, benefits of early contractor engagement, and again, we do engagement with the industry on a regular basis. The folks that design projects talk to contractors in general, not the ones that are going to be building the jobs beforehand, on design bid build, but in general. But there are certain things that if you have the contractor on board early, that those conversations can take a different tone and tenor and can take into account the capabilities of a particular contractor. And so, and they may have experiences working either here in Kentucky or in other places that might lend themselves well to a certain type of thing that might not have lent itself well to being constructed by a different contractor. So there's an opportunity there. And then, this says greater collaboration, and really what that gets down to is in the design bid build, the standard process, the contractor doesn't come on board until after we have let and awarded a contract. Okay, and so going back to that early contractor engagement, we will have sought information from the industry. We'll have looked at what we've learned from past projects to help inform project development decisions. But that collaboration during the design process can yield benefits, and that's what that collaboration is talking about. And the same thing with that opportunity for innovation. Because again, you're having a different level of conversation with a contractor that's been brought on board to specifically construct that project, rather than saying, hey, contractor, if I had this situation, what types of things might I consider? And again, both of those are very valuable and have their place. And as we're looking at these types of things, it's important for us to remember that not every project is going to lend itself well to any of these different type of delivery models. And that's kind of why I'm talking through a lot of these different factors and facets. And so on the risk management side, and you might think about what are the things that are risks in a standard construction contract, but we'll kind of put those aside and talk about what the risks are in particular relative to alternative delivery and how they might be managed. And if you look at the way that we do business in the traditional sense, and by the way, the traditional delivery model has benefited all of the folks in the Commonwealth a lot. We do thousands of projects, worth billions of dollars that are out of the highway plan, and many of them use that traditional model. So I certainly don't want to be throwing that away as a very worthwhile tool, because for the vast majority of things we do, it is a great tool. When you think about some of the things that we have in the risk portfolio of projects, and if you have things that are unknowns, that aren't kind of project development centric, like right of way or environmental or things like that, but there may be more material availability, workforce, these types of things. What are the availability of resources that are needed to do a project? Those types of things in alternative delivery can be proactively identified and managed with the folks that are actually going to construct that project, and then assigned to the right folks. It's not all the risk on the owner, it's not all the risk on the contractor, but that's a collaborative step where we're all in the same room trying to figure out, these risks are out there, they exist. How do we work through those together in a manner that helps us get ultimately to where we want to go, which is a completed successful project. But and if the secretary were here with me today, he would say, just remember that alternative delivery is not a panacea. It's not a cure-all. It's not something that can be used on every project to the advantage of the taxpayer or the cabinet or the contractor. And so there are definitely challenges as we talk about alternative delivery too. And some of these are just a slightly different viewpoint of some of the things that I mentioned earlier. But they're things that we have to think about as we're going through and looking at candidates for these types of projects, in order to make sure, going back to my very first slide there, that we are doing our level best to deliver the best products relative to cost, schedule, and scope. And so and quality, excuse me. And so as we think about what some of the challenges might be, in alternative delivery contracts, you have the same thing you do in all contracts. Once you award a contract, you have limited flexibility to change. And if you do change, that requires change order and those types of things. And you would say, well, that's the same as it is in the standard process. Well, kind of, but you've already put together that full set of designs, that full set of considerations for that project. You've already gotten all the way to the end. And so that reduced flexibility is, there's less variability, or there can be, okay? And so on the alternative delivery side, as you're doing design and things, as you're doing things and awarding stuff, and there's a different kind of feel and flavor to that. And so it's just important to consider that, especially with tools like Progressive Design Build or CMGC that allow you to award pieces of a scope as opposed to the entire scope at one time. You know, I mentioned earlier about traditional design build. That's where the full scope is agreed to and units are priced all at the beginning. But there's these other flavors of that, CMGC and progressive design build, that allow you to break those out into pieces and do awards as you go, which, you know, for larger projects can be helpful to minimize risk related to what are the future of materials or workforce, those other types of things that I was kind of talking about in my earlier slide. Schedule risk. And so I mentioned a little bit earlier about the impact or the potential impact on needing to acquire right-of-way, do environmental permitting, go through the environmental process, or move utilities on alternative delivery projects. And the challenge there is that the right-of-way process is a variable process. It takes time. And when you think about the right-of-way process, it's from a transportation cabinet standpoint, it's one of the most intimate things that we do with the citizens of the Commonwealth. You know, we're going in, explaining that, you know, a road project needs to be done and that we need to acquire your property or a piece of it. And going through that with individual citizens and businesses and things, that's a time-consuming process, and it needs to take time because that's the right thing to do as we're talking with those individual citizens. And so, but that poses schedule risk. And so, when you award a contract in the traditional process, all of the right-of-way has been obtained for that project, and that component of schedule risk does not exist. On the utility relocation side, and I mentioned kind of the difference between our, you know, you think about the difference between doing alternative delivery or design build, you know, like on a development or in the vertical world versus the transportation world. You know, the risk of utilities is another one of those things, you know, because utilities have to be moved all along a road project. You know, there's a lot of times when for the public benefit, there's utilities within the right-of-way or where the roadway needs to go or the transportation facility, and those all have to be moved, and folks still need access to whatever those utilities are. And so it's really important to make sure that all of those things are worked out, but that's also a significant source of potential schedule risk. And so those are things that you know, kind of differ between these types of contracts. But the schedule risk on an alternative delivery job can be a little bit different because, you know, I know that if your phone calls are like ours, you know, people are really excited for transportation projects to be done, but they're concerned about, you know, how long is it going to take and how long might traffic be impacted and those sorts of things. And having those types of schedule risk out there and no definitive end date can, you know, potentially lengthen the amount of time that people are seeing out there on the job, which isn't good for the constituent, it's not good for the contractor, and it's not good for the cabinet either. And so it's important, like I said, to consider each one of these as a potential opportunity through all of these different things. As you look at those schedule risks, there's the potential for cost escalation as well. And those are things that, depending on which contract method, that might be risk to the contractor, it might be risk to the Commonwealth. But I think that if you think about it all the way through, you know, if there's going to be a risk to somebody who's doing business, that's going to have to be priced into the price that the owner is given. And, you know, if we want to make sure that as we're going through and looking at these opportunities, that we're identifying things that we understand what those risks are and that we can efficiently get through the process. And so we don't want to just be applying these things without considering these factors, because we don't want things to inadvertently, when we're trying to do a good thing, end up costing more or taking longer or any of those things that we're trying to be good stewards. And then the last thing that I'll mention here is just the nature of the alternative delivery process requires critical dedicated KYTC personnel, like to a particular project or a set of projects. And we have a lot of project development professionals that are working across all of our project portfolio, but you know, we talk about schedule and the opportunity that sometimes alternative delivery can allow us to compress schedule. we're not able to skip any steps here. So all the same things still have to be done, but when those things are done, they have to be done in a compressed time frame. And so, if it might be something where you iterate, 2, 3, 4 times on a concept, that iteration has to be done very quickly. It has to be done with focus. And ultimately, other parts of the project are still going on. And if a change happens somewhere else back here, you may have to back up and redo some things. And that's okay. I mean, that's a part of project development, but those are just some of the potential challenges that you can have. And I think that, we have a really awesome dedicated program manager for our alternative delivery jobs. We have a lot of great folks that contribute to these, not only at KYTC, throughout the industry, both the contracting industry and the consultant industry. There's a lot of benefits to doing this on the right project at the right time and for the right reasons. And so, we're really thankful for the opportunity to have come and spoken with you this morning. Happy to take any questions, but like I said, the secretary would tell us it doesn't cure everything. It's not a panacea, and it's not for every project. So appreciate the opportunity to come and speak.
Thank you, Jason. I do have a question from Representative Branscombe.
Hear me now? All right. This one's dead. Thank you all for being here. This is coming from the vertical world, and I know, like you said, Secretary, he would say different can be different, but I like the alternative delivery methods. And some of the things you were saying, music to my ears. I'm a firm believer that anytime you can get a contractor involved early on, I think that's very beneficial. And, you made a great point. You don't see that as much in the traditional design bid build. You see it more in the design build, and I assume probably the CM as well. A lot of times contractors, when they can get on board early and can work through being involved in the process while design is going on, our designers are, they're looking at, putting it on paper. From a contractor standpoint, we're looking at constructability. Okay, once we get out there, how are we going to put this together? Are there some things we can do to maybe save time, still get the same outcomes, and which ultimately saves money? One question I had a couple questions, and Mr. Chairman, I'll refer to you on these as I ask them. You were talking about in the design build, the utilities and the right of way. Now, those are, correct me if I'm wrong, you said those are handled up front. Those aren't in the design build contractor's contract. Is that correct?
Well, and it kind of depends. So,
okay.
If a project, and again, every project is unique. If a project will have either very minimal or no right-of-way impact and doesn't have utilities, that's something to be considered as you're looking for that. But
okay.
But often, many of the projects that we're out there doing do have these types of impacts, and so what scale are those impacts? How likely are they to cause this unknown schedule delay? Those are factors to be considered as we're trying to figure out whether something's a good fit for the alternative delivery portfolio. But there are ways to do it both ways. But what I'll say is that from an alternative delivery perspective, if there is right of way to be acquired, a lot of times that ends up being a part of the risk profile for the design build contractor, which it's just an uncertain and unknown.
Okay, so that leads me into where I was going with that. So on let's say a smaller project where we don't have, right of way is not as much of an issue, the utilities very minimal, design build would probably be a pretty good fit for some of those projects. I know that could be project specific and depending on the project, but being used on smaller projects, it would be potential delivery method to be used.
Well, I think that one of the things to consider there is, because a lot of those types of projects also are not necessarily terribly complex from a design standpoint either. And so, as we're looking at some of these different things, those are factors to be considered. And the more well-defined the scope of a project is, and the less of those types of uncertainties that it has as a part of it, those are things that would be in the pro category for being good candidates. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Us contractors, we hate risk. You know.
Well, I think all humans kind of hate risk and don't think about it so much.
Mr. Chairman, can I follow up with a question?
Proceed, yes.
Yes, thank you. On the right of ways and the utilities, when that's not in the design build contractor's contract, who handles that?
It kind of varies. It could be internal KYTC resources. It could be folks within the consulting industry. It could be a combination of those two things. It depends on the nature of the particular project. Okay,
I just want to make sure that it seems like that could be from a scheduling standpoint, especially in the pre-construction phase, that could be kind of a bottleneck point of the project.
Yeah, and when you think about utilities, one of the, as I mentioned, those folks still need to serve their customers and things, and moving for road projects isn't a core part of their business. It's just kind of one of the realities of doing the things that they do. But they're trying to be out there, whether it's a municipal utility that's public owned that's doing that to serve customers, as a kind of in a nonprofit environment, or if you're a for-profit company, those are things that have to be coordinated and scheduled with them, and can often take time beyond just what you see as how long does it take to move this pole route or this underground route or whatever. Working it into their schedule sometimes is challenging, and those types of things as well.
What about on that right-of-way end? You were talking about on the utility end, but what about when on the right-of-ways? Is that cabinet employees, or is that third party?
It could be either one. And
okay.
We just like we partner with our contracting industry to help us build things. We have internal resources to do engineering work, but we also do a lot of work. Speak to Senator Douglas, not uncommonly, at Contract Review Committee about various things going on the consulting side as well. And so what we try to do is utilize those resources to be able to efficiently deliver these projects.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate those answers. As I've said before in this committee, I think we have to look at these alternative methods when they do fit, and especially if we can take a little bit of load off some of our district engineers from the design standpoint on some of the smaller projects, or whichever ones where it is a fit, kind of free them up to look at some other things.
Do you mind if I just make a comment quickly? One of the things that I do want to mention about that, given your comment, is that the administration of these contracts is not it's not easier or more simplified than what we are doing for as far as contract administration, because it's specialized, because it has, different rules and considerations and those sorts of things. The actual, I use the word administration, but the oversight of these contracts is, in certain cases, more challenging, and we're learning a lot about that. And like I said, we've got a great team of folks that are doing alternative delivery and making that as efficient as possible. But it's not, it doesn't simplify oversight.
Right.
You can't. I just wanted to get that out there because it's
and I don't think we would want that oversight to be pushed to the side. We always have to have that.
Well, it's a partnership, right? We've got folks on the contracting side that are building these things, and we're all trying to get to the same spot. And inspection and oversight is a part of a good contractual relationship. So,
thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Jason, if you guys need some legislative changes, you need to voice that to us, and we'll be more than happy to consider some of those things. You're not done yet. Representative Blanton has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two, if I may.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason, Chad, thank you. I apologize for my tardiness. I was in a meeting talking about transportation, so running a little late. My first question deals with deadlines, and I know we're talking about new projects here today, but I want to talk about new projects and projects. I'm just going to call them resurfacing projects, and these are brought to my attention. One situation on a new project on the Mountain Parkway, there was one company in particular that got a bid they were working at least a year in advance of another company getting another section, and the second bid came in, removed far more dirt, and done a much bigger stretch of roadway and much quicker than the first company. So I started getting constituents saying, this is costing us money, and I start explaining, no, there's deadlines until they go beyond those deadlines, and then it costs the company money. It doesn't cost the state any more money. It's a set amount that they're getting for this. And the second thing is, so do we set deadlines? If so, what are those? And do we set them not only on new projects, but on resurfacing projects as well?
Sure. So for everything that we put out there through the letting, it will have a completion date, and that comes in a couple of different flavors. Okay, and the first is a fixed completion date. This project needs to be done by what is today, October 15th of 2025. Okay, and there's contractual terms that say you have to do that, and there's a whole section in our standard specifications that explains what happens if that isn't, and whether or not there's mitigating circumstances and things like that. That's a pretty complex answer. And then the second flavor is what's called a working day contract, which is kind of determining how many days would a contractor be able to work based on weather conditions and predominantly weather conditions, but a few other factors as well. And so every project that we let through the standard process has those types of deadlines, and as any contract would. Yes, sir.
Including the resurfacing contract?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
And
and my second question, if I may.
Yeah, proceed.
So it does deal with new projects. A little bit off topic of maybe what you're all discussing today, but since we're on new projects, that is the releasing of projects for bid. So we create in the General Assembly a 6-year road plan that we send. Obviously, that road plan has more projects than what's in the budget. It's a little heftier than that. But some of those projects, my understanding, once we send that over, the cabinet then forwards projects to the district to begin the process. Some of those have funding in there. How do we get projects moved that are important projects that haven't been sent out, but there's money in that fiscal year for that project? How do we get those moved forward to the district so the project can begin?
Without summarizing what you said, with the transportation cabinet, we're doing the best we can with the resources, the dollars we have available to get those projects moving as quickly as possible. And so if you have particular concerns, be happy to discuss those with you, and we can figure out how to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, I have one particular project that has federal dollars attached to it. That is a huge project that really needs to be moving forward. I understand the predicament you guys are in. I'm just understanding, is there a process that we have that we can help with getting those pushed out into the district so they can begin?
Understand, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Blanton. Representative Bridges has some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick one. I just wondering, on these alternative delivery jobs, how are they awarded any different than a standard project, or are they?
Yes, and without getting into a lot of detail, when you have a traditional design bid build project, it is awarded. Contractors have the opportunity to review a completed set of plans and place a bids on bid items that are within those plans, and say, here it is, and then those bids are tabulated, and they're that type of procurement is low responsive bid procurement. These other items have a value component, and most of the time the pricing is done as you go after the contract is awarded. And so while price is a component, and as we look at this, one of the things that I do want to mention is that there's all kinds of different ways that those alternative delivery contracts can be structured and looked at, but cost-supported alternative delivery projects, that link up what the actual cost of that work is to the amount that's paid by the owner is something that we've been working on as far as how we structure alternative delivery contracts. So there are differences, and price is not determined up front in many of these methods. But yes, sir, there are differences.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, and I'm not trying to open up a can of worms, but would that be considered a no bid contract, or are there just is there a certain framework that multiple contractors can come in, look at, design, build, and everything, and then plug the pieces in a similar manner?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what it is it goes through a request for proposal process, and through the alternative delivery, those are posted at different times, so the prospective contractors can look at those and have the potential to build teams. And if you would like to contribute here, please feel free, Chad. But but those are done before the contractor is selected, and then when we talk about competition, particularly for alternative delivery, it is important that all of the contractors who could potentially do that work have the opportunity to look at that and be able to put in, decide whether or not that's a fit for them and whoever their partner might be, and be able to put in a bid on that. So those aren't just, it's not selected. I'm trying to use words that aren't super technical, but it's something that we go through a standard process that has a technical component that we're trying to figure out what is going to provide the best value for the taxpayer on the front end.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right answer. It's an evaluation process. Certainly cost, timing, and others can factor into that, but it is I don't want to use qualified base selection either, because that's an engineering term, but it's, for lack of a better term, it's that. It's not just a low bid gets the project.
Right. It takes into account capabilities. It takes into account, history, what types of projects have been worked on, and the ability to actually deliver the job efficiently and effectively. So it's evaluating. If you remember from my first slide, I was talking about that design build team. It's evaluating the entire team that has been assembled as a part of that proposal to be able to deliver that job in a manner that best suits the taxpayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Representative Smith, this is the last question.
Thank you. I'll be real brief, and it's probably more of a statement than it is a question. I think what we're up against dealing with our constituents back home, we go in and we try to get a project put in the budget. It gets submitted, and then we get asked about it for 4 or 5 years. When are we going to see it? I think that's where Representative Branscombe made a great point on if there's a method that can take the smaller projects and get them out, even though it's not an I-75 or it's not a major project out there. If the smaller ones, if we could see progress on some of the projects we put in, it helps us on going back to our constituents. I'm hearing things like, and this is nothing because I don't understand what all you're up against every day, but I listen to legislators is that we have projects in there, but we're not seeing any activity. Again, I'm not criticizing Transportation Cabinet. I'm just saying we're offering you, if there's other methods that we can make changes in legislation to help you. We want to get our projects out, and we want our constituents to see progress. And does that make sense? That's all. I think that's my point. Is that we want to be on the same team that you're on, but we'd like to help you. I don't want to say fast track, because I know there is a lot of checkoff boxes, and we want a great product, but also if there is areas, Mr. Chairman, that we can look at that'll help you in legislative wise, then we want to look at it, Chad, because we want the same thing, and but as we put more money into, we're going through the process right now of putting more projects in. Then we look at the list that's not been started yet, and it's kind of hard to explain. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And we appreciate the tools that are available to us, and do our best to use those to deliver as many of those projects as possible. And we will go back and look and give you any feedback that we have on any legislative items as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, Chad, I had a 2 or 3 questions, but I'm going to hold those just because of we are time limited here. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming. And
don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that Chad did have a few comments that.
It's quite all right. I'll keep it. Let
Brief.
me just very brief.
Brief.
Yes, absolutely. All I'll just say is, as a top line feedback from our industry, we're supportive of alternative delivery methods. We think they have the ability to add value to the program or to the progress of projects. I will echo what Jason said also. They are not a one size fits all or fix every problem. It's not a magic process, but it absolutely, with the identification of the right projects, it can have meaningful impact on whether it be whatever's valued by the stakeholders in that project, whether it be time, money. Sometimes those are the same in different measurements, but it has the ability to do that. It's a useful tool. I think the cabinet has utilized that tool, continues to look to utilize that tool. We as an industry are supportive of it. We like it. We like the relationship model that it presents with partnering and the culture of collaborative working together.
thank you very much for those comments. I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation you've done this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear a presentation on short line infrastructure preservation and industrial access, as well as safety improvement programs for the railroads. But prior to, while you're sitting down and making yourself comfortable, we do have a quorum, so I'm going to ask if I have a motion for approval of the minutes. We have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. All opposed nay. The minutes are adopted. Now, if you would make sure that the microphone is and the green light is on.
It is on.
Okay. If you would introduce yourself for us. And
My name is Jeremy Edgeworth. I'm the Freight, Rail, and Waterways Coordinator for the Transportation Cabinet.
Thank you, Jeremy. Please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you very much. You can proceed whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I was asked today to provide an update on the railroad funds outlined in House Bill 1. So first, House Bill 1 allocated $7.5 million in each fiscal year for the short line infrastructure preservation pilot project. This is the text from House Bill 1. I'm not going to read it to you in whole, but I want to discuss some of the finer points.
We appreciate that.
So to administer the funds, we created the Kentucky Short Line Infrastructure Preservation, or KSLIP, grant program. This is the mechanism we utilize to award the $7.5 million in each fiscal year as 50-50 grants to the Class 2 and Class 3 railroads. We issue a call for projects, and interested railroads submit applications for the proposed projects. A selection committee made up of Transportation Cabinet staff from our planning, right-of-way and utilities, and local programs review the applications and score them based upon 3 main criteria. 1, how they preserve and enhance existing rail corridors and rail lines. 2, how they retain existing rail-served industries and attract new industries. And 3, how they preserve and modernize Kentucky's rail system. The committee gives special weight to projects that would be matching federally funded projects, as well as those that are ready to start construction quickly. These scores are made up make up a recommendation list of awards for the Secretary of Transportation to make the final award decision. So for our fiscal year 25 KSLIP grants, 8 projects were awarded the full $7.5 million. These were awarded by the Secretary in October of 2024. 2 of the projects are matching awarded federal grants. These $7.5 million in KSLIP funds are going towards over $26 million in total project costs. Of these 8 projects, 6 are already under construction and 4 are nearing completion. So to highlight a few of the fiscal year 25 funded projects, the photo in the upper left is Paducah and Louisville Railway's renewal of their yard tracks in the Princeton project. This $4.1 million project in Caldwell County will replace 25 turnouts, which is where a single track separates into 2 tracks or they converge back together. It will also replace over 11,000 feet of rail and over 4,000 cross ties in their critical Princeton yard. The second photo from the left is the $1.4 million Trans-Kentucky Transportation Railroad project in Nicholas County. This project will construct over 7,000 track feet to create 4 additional storage tracks to provide storage for rail cars for the adjacent Bourbon-Nicholas County Industrial Park. The third photo is of R.J. Corman Railroad's $12 million project in Franklin County. This is part of a larger federally funded grant project that will construct a 3-track rail-to-truck transload yard. This transload yard will take trucks off the road between Lexington and Frankfort. The final photo is of the Tenken Railroad project in Fulton County. This is part of a larger federally funded grant project that will rehabilitate and reconstruct 11 miles of track that is over 100 years old. It's also a currently very lightweight 70-pound rail, and it'll upgrade it to a 100-pound rail. The K-SLIP grant funding is actually providing an additional 1.5 miles of track over the federal grant. For the fiscal year 26 K-SLIP funds, 6 projects were awarded the full $7.5 million. These were awarded by the Secretary in August of this year. 2 of these projects are matching awarded federal grants. These $7.5 million in K-SLIP funds are going towards over $28 million in project costs. To again highlight a few of the fiscal year 26 funded projects, the photo on the left is the Louisville, Indiana Railroad's Clag Bridge Lift Span Operations Project in downtown Louisville. This project is part of a larger $11.6 million federally funded project that will address critical maintenance needs to ensure the continued safe and reliable operation of the lift span, which is vital for both rail and river traffic on the 14th Street Bridge connecting Louisville and Clarksville. The middle photo is Paducah and Louisville Railway's almost $4 million Calvert City Industrial Lead Turnout Rehabilitation Project. This project in Marshall County will replace aging turnouts and adjacent track structures that provide critical rail service within the Calvert City Industrial Complex. Funding will replace 30 turnouts as well as 3,100 feet of rail and over 1,000 cross ties. The final image is representative of the other 4 projects combined by R.J. Corman and Paducah and Louisville Railways that will rehabilitate more than 85 miles of track, replace 36,000 feet of worn rail, and replace more than 75,000 ties. Now to shift to the second rail grant program, House Bill 1 allocated $7.5 million in each fiscal year for the Industrial Access and Safety Improvement Pilot Project. Again, I won't read all the text of House Bill 1 to you, but I want to talk about some of the finer points. So to administer the funds, we created the Kentucky Industrial Access and Safety Improvement, or KIASI, grant program. This is the mechanism we utilize to award the $7.5 million in each fiscal year as 50-50 grants. This program is open to freight railroads operating in the Commonwealth, as well as any railroad authority, port authority, rail served industry, and industrial and economic development authority board. Like the K-SLIP program, we issue a call for projects, and interested parties submit applications of their proposed projects. A selection committee made up of Transportation Cabinet and Economic Development Cabinet staff review the applications and score them based upon 3 main criteria. First, how the project will provide Kentucky communities and industries with transportation options, connectivity, and opportunities. 2, how they enhance rail line corridors to increase on-time performance. And 3, improve rail services to existing industries and encourage investment in the Commonwealth. These scores are used to make up a recommendation list of awards to the Secretary of Transportation to make the final award decision. So for the fiscal year 25 KIASI projects, 6 projects were awarded over $6.5 million. These were awarded by the Secretary in 2 rounds, the first in December 2024 and the second in March 2025. These $6.5 million in KIASI funds are going towards over $13.6 million in total project costs. The $903,000 in fiscal 25 funds remaining, we added to the fiscal 26 call for projects. So to highlight a few of the fiscal 25 funded projects, the photo on the left is VLIN North America's Recycling's $4.1 million Project Alta, located in Shelby County. This project will construct a new industrial rail spur connecting Norfolk Southern's existing Class 1 rail line to VLIN's facility. Secondary track spurs will also be installed for loading and unloading operations. The middle photo is Logan Aluminum's $2.9 million Northwest and Southwest Yard Track Extension Project in Logan County. This project will add additional railroad tracks on the site to increase capacity. The first part is adding 1,600 track feet in the northwest yard, and the second part will add 800 track feet in the southwest yard. The final photo is Pittsburgh Glass Works' $2.8 million Vitro Rail Spur Berea project located in Madison County. This project will construct 580-foot rail spur to connect the existing property to the nearby CSX line and allow storage for 8 rail cars. This will streamline the transportation of raw materials to the factory, significantly reducing their costs. For the fiscal year 26 CIASI funds, 6 projects were just awarded over $5.6 million. These awards were just announced yesterday. These $5.6 million in CIASI funds are going towards over $12.3 million in total project costs. We have almost $2.8 million in CIASI funds remaining. We issued a second call for projects this morning, and applications are due December 1st. To highlight a few of the fiscal 26 funded projects, on the left is Stainless Steel Midwest's $2.1 million railroad project located in Oldham County. This project will construct a turnout to bring rail across Kentucky 146 for rail delivery directly onto Stainless Steel Midwest property. Currently, materials are trucked from their neighbor's rail line across 146 to the Stainless Steel Midwest property. The upper middle photo is Owensboro Riverport Authority's almost $900,000 rail car mover acquisition project located in Davies County. This project will enable the acquisition of a new rail car mover. The increased capacity and ability to have 2 units on site will enable efficient shut-in of rail cars between their 5 loading and unloading locations and the interchange tracks to support the movement of various commodities and growing number of customers. The bottom middle photo is Logan Aluminum's second CIASI grant, their $2.4 million DC4 track extension project, again located in Logan County. This project consists of adding 2,100 track feet at the north end of the plant to establish rail access to their casting center. The rail access to the casting center provides a critical step needed for the receipt of inbound raw materials by rail. In addition, the new railroad tracks will connect their DC4 casting center with their on-site ingot storage yard, allowing the production volume to be transported on-site via rail instead of trucks. The final photo is Eddyville Riverport and Industrial Development Authority's over $1 million industrial park rail expansion project located in Lyon County. This project will construct a new rail spur to connect to the Paducah and Louisville Railway's main line and serve the Eddyville Industrial Park. This project provides a critical rail served site to meet immediate and future demand for rail-dependent industries. So information about each rail grant program, including the application and the guidance documents, can be found on the Transportation Cabinet's website, or my contact information is below if you have any questions, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
That was concise, Jeremy. And what's really scary is I understood what you said.
Happy I was able to make that work for you, sir.
I don't know how it happened. But with that being said, do I have any questions from anyone up? You know, it's remarkable, Jeremy. Everyone else understood it as well. But I want to thank you for the presentation this morning. It really did make a lot of sense.
Thank you.
And I do like the visuals. They help a great deal, and I do think they help a great deal with those people who are watching us utilize some of the tax dollars that they give us. No questions? Okay. Well, with that being said, I want to make this announcement that the next meeting will be on November the 5th. It will be chaired by co-chair Upchurch, who's already told me he's going to bring some entertainment. But
we'll be selling tickets, so just let you know.
In the meantime, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All right. So adjourned.